I'm Kaylee, and these are all the books that I read in April. I'm having difficulty getting it into my brain that April is over. It's May now. I just can't quite comprehend the passage of time or something. I don't know. But April is over, and I read 24 books in April. Before I dive into all the reading that I did in April, we're gonna reach back here to our Booktuber shout out book, and we're gonna shout out somebody randomly. Today's shout out goes to Books I'm Not Reading. I'll leave a link to their channel over in the description, so be sure to click on that link and go over there and subscribe to them. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe to this channel and follow me on Twitter and Instagram and Goodreads and Storygraph and all the places. In April, I read 4 nonfiction, 2 activity books, 3 children's classics, 11 children's picture books, 1 middle grade, 1 graphic novel, 1 YA sci-fi, and 1 modern classic. That's kind of a lot. It's just a lot of random stuff. So I read the 4th book in the Roswell High series. This one is The Watcher. In this 4th book, Max is worried that he might be dying of some sort of strange alien condition, and his only chance is for them to find the alien ship that crashed down decades before. So the group of friends spend their days scouring the desert looking for any clue as to where the government might be hiding the crashed spaceship. I gave this 3 stars. As I've said many times before, it's incredibly dorky. It's not really well written. If this was my first introduction to this story and these characters, I would probably hate it and I would not be reading this series. But as a teenager, I loved the Roswell TV show. And it's so fun to rediscover the story and rediscover the characters through the books. If I did not have the nostalgia of the TV show, I would definitely not enjoy these. I do not recommend for anyone to pick them up unless you already have that nostalgia like I do. The modern classic that I read was the 3rd book in the Richard Hannay series, Mr. Standfast. Richard Hannay is serving as a general in World War I when he is called away to do some espionage on the home front. A dangerous group of radicals in a small country village in England might be hiding an evil mastermind who is the center of a ring of German spies. They're hiding in plain sight on British soil, and Richard is the only one who can stop them. He meets some old friends who come back to be part of his counter-espionage team, and he is introduced to the beautiful Mary, a voice of wisdom in all of their plans. I really love the adventure in this 3rd book of the series. The espionage is thrilling and the mystery is intriguing, but it does take some time to get to that point. The beginning is just a lot of setup before the action can get started. There are a lot of very lengthy political and philosophical conversations. I liked those things, but it just slowed down the plot a lot. I did like the romance between Richard and Mary, but it is a little bit of insta-love. So it wasn't that great, but it was fine. The best thing about this book was just learning more about this time period in World War I from someone who had lived through it. This book was first published the same year that World War I was finished. It's set a few years earlier, right in the middle of the war, but it wasn't published until the war had just been over. So it was really cool to learn about history from right in the thick of it. I gave this 4 stars. I also read 2 books from the Faraway Tree series, The Magic Faraway Tree, and what was the other one? Where is it? The Folk of the Faraway Tree. Yes, both of those. I actually read these out of order. So I read the 1st book, and then I read The Folk of the Faraway Tree, which is the 3rd book, and then I went back and read The Magic Faraway Tree because the stupid edition that I have is all 3 books in one, and it's literally printed incorrectly. It's an edition that has all 3 of those books in one big book, and it has the 1st book, and then the 3rd book, and then the 2nd book is at the end. So whatever, I don't know what to tell you about that. That is just the most idiotic thing I've ever seen in my life. But because these books are so episodic, it doesn't really matter. It didn't it didn't really make a difference that I read it out of order, so that was good. So the whole premise of this series is that there are 3 siblings and their friends in the other book that visit the wood behind their cottage and discover that it is an enchanted wood. At the center of the forest is the Faraway tree. It's the largest tree in the world, and at the very tippity top of the tree, it magically connects to a different magical land every week. It changes all the time, so you never really know what land is going to come and be magically connected to the top of the Faraway tree. It might be the land of birthdays, where everyone gets a free birthday party. It might be the land of tempers, where everyone loses their temper. It might be the land of evil goblins, or it might be the land of toys. It might be a land that rolls and jumps with constant earthquakes. But whatever land there is, the children and their fairy friends are sure to have a wild adventure. This is such a fun series and just really adorable, very, very saccharine and cutesy, but I gave both of these 4 stars. I also read Planet Narnia, The 7 Heavens in the Imagination of C.S. Lewis by Michael Ward. I've already done a whole nother video talking about this book and how amazing it was and how I found it absolutely fascinating. So do go over and watch that other video because I had a lot of things to say about Planet Narnia. I gave it 5 stars. It was just so cool. I also read a little booklet called Stress Less by Kate Hanley, and it just has little tidbits of advice of things to do to just have some happiness in your life and live with kindness and compassion and not stress about things so much. Most of the advice is very commonplace. Take a walk, go out in the sunshine, drink a glass of water, call your mom. You know, just basic common sense things that we know to do, but we really need to actually do them. However, each little bit of advice is kind of presented in this fresh way that really makes you think. I gave it 4 stars. I also reread The Empowered Highly Sensitive Person by Amanda Casso. This is actually not just a book, it's also a workbook where you can write in the answers and do different little activities and stuff. Because I am a highly sensitive person, it is such a relief to have a book like this that helps me make sense of why I just see the world so differently from other people, why my experience just seems to be so utterly, drastically different from the way I see other people just tra-la-la tripping through life, and I'm really struggling. So this gives you real, practical advice about how to navigate being a highly sensitive person and just how to manage the strong emotions and the overwhelming sensations that come with that. So there is a quiz in here that you can take that says if you score a 14 or higher, you are most likely a highly sensitive person. Well, on a scale of 30 things, I scored a 24. So yeah, I am a very, very extremely sensitive person. I really enjoyed this book the first time that I read it a few years ago, and I feel like this is one that I'm just going to constantly be coming back to over and over through my life to kind of remind myself, like, you're okay, and you have the tools you need to navigate your individual struggles. And it's just so encouraging. Like, all of the wording in here is just so positive to kind of discover why being highly sensitive is not just a weakness, but it's also a strength. I gave it 5 stars last time, gave it 5 stars this time. It's a great book for anyone who's highly sensitive. I also reread The Cricket in Times Square. This is one of my favorites when I was a kid, and I reread it every once in a while as an adult because it's just so cute. Chester the cricket gets lost in New York City, and he's adopted by a little boy named Mario. Mario works at his family's newspaper stand in a subway station, and Chester befriends a mouse and a peaceful cat, and they enjoy listening to his beautiful cricket music. But the animals are not the only ones who notice Chester's talent for music. Soon the humans are also enchanted with Chester's cheerful chirps. This story just has such a soft charm. I love the old-fashioned writing style, and of course there's beautiful illustrations by Garth Williams. Chester is just so adorable. I really love stories about tiny creatures who have to rely on their wits to save the day. And there's something so especially innocent about Chester. He charms his way into the hearts of every character in the story and into the heart of the reader as well. I always give this one 5 stars and enjoy rereading it. The rest of the books in this video are books that I received for free from a publisher in exchange for a free and honest review. I read a graphic novel, The Tales of a 7th Grade Lizard Boy by Jonathan Hill. Tommy's family are actually lizard people who are trying to blend in with the human world. Tommy has to wear a human skin over his green lizard face. And it's very difficult trying to be normal in middle school when everything is just so different from the lizard culture that he's used to. But Tommy meets other 7th graders who also have some trouble fitting in. One of his new friends, Dung, is a Vietnamese boy who is dealing with culture shock and trying to learn English. So they bond over their differences, discovering that they actually have more in common than they thought. I really loved this graphic novel. The plot is hilarious and it's emotional. The characters are very complex. Their stories are really meaningful. The setting and the background are really interesting because we get to learn about the lizard people. Tommy and Dung's story just really spoke to me because I grew up as a third culture kid. I just never quite fit in with either culture. And having to navigate 2 different languages and 2 different sets of customs for 2 cultures can be exhausting and rewarding and very scary and wonderful. And I really liked how Tommy's bicultural experiences were mirrored in the experiences of other characters as well. It was just deeply relatable. I loved Tommy's character development. His inward journey led him on this path to find the courage to be real and vulnerable with the people around him. And I really love the artwork too. And in some ways, the artwork is just so emotional that it really makes you feel very strongly for Tommy and his friends. I loved this. I mean, I am not at all the target demographic for this book, and I loved it so much. 5 stars. It was fantastic. I also read a middle grade novel, The Rat Queen by Pete Houtman. Annie's father teaches her the ancient magic of their family, which is that they write down all the bad things they've done, and then they feed that paper down into a hole in the floorboards, and down underground in the basement, there are magical rats who eat your sins. And then you don't feel bad about what you did. You don't feel guilty. I was kind of worried that this book would be too dark and scary for me. And it was kind of dark and a little scary, but not too bad. It didn't give me nightmares or anything, but I still didn't care for the dark moral direction of the story. Annie just never really makes a stand for goodness and virtue. She just kind of drifts along with her family's sinful things. She does grow up a little and she has some character development, but I felt like it wasn't enough. I kept expecting this showdown between good and evil, and that just never happened. I wanted Annie to make strong decisions for good, and she just kind of goes along with what other people are doing. She mostly just reacts to other people and kind of does her own thing, but she just doesn't make a very definite decision. And she does make some good decisions, and then she kind of drifts along again. The plot moves very slowly. It has a lot of spooky atmosphere and very, very good descriptive writing, but it just slows down the plot a lot. And then all of a sudden at the end, 5 years go by in 1 chapter, and you're kind of like, what? Hang on, where are we? What's happening? And at the end, we're sort of left wondering, like, what really happened to Annie? I did really love the writing style. The story is just peppered with these meaningful fairy tales that then reflect on something that is happening in Annie's story. Someone tells her like a fairy tale that's part of her heritage, and then she learns something from that story, and then we see how that changes her perspective on what is happening to her. But all the fairy tales are sad. So Annie is just learning, like, life is sad and dark and there's nothing you can do about it. The whole underlying philosophy of this story is just very confused and sad and dark, and I didn't like that. I'm just kind of not sure what the philosophical point was that was trying to get across here. But the writing style is just so beautiful and powerful that I'm very torn with this one. There were some aspects of it that I really loved, and other aspects of it that I really did not like. I ended up giving it 2.5 stars. I tried to read Llewellyn's Complete Book of Meditation, and I had to DNF it around chapter 2. Just this philosophy of meditation did not at all line up with my own beliefs, and there were things in it that felt uncomfortable to me and even scary a little bit. There were just certain things that felt weird and rubbed me the wrong way. And I don't know, as I was reading it, it's like it gave me a bad feeling. So I only read up to chapter 2, and then I decided this is just not the right meditation book for me. Maybe some other people would enjoy it, but I really did not care for it. If you want to know some more specifics of things in there that I specifically did not like, you can go over and read my Goodreads review of that one. But I ended up giving it 1 star. Just, wow, really not for me. There were also a couple of activity books that I started doing. I got Paint by Sticker, Plants and Flowers. I love the whole Paint by Sticker series. It is so soothing and peaceful. And I feel like sometimes when I'm coloring, I'm like worried that I'm gonna mess it up. And it's like, that's silly. You're not an artist, you're just a regular person and nobody's gonna see it but you. So there is no messing it up. But sometimes I feel like that. So when I do stickers, it's like, well, you can't mess up a sticker, you're good to go. So I don't know, somehow that perfectionist part of me turns off when I do Paint by Sticker. And I found the same thing with the reverse coloring book. The perfectionist part of my brain thinks it's just random. The colors are already there, so you just put in some random lines and it'll be fun. I find that the reverse coloring book really sparks my imagination in a totally different way from coloring because the colors are already there. You just take a pen or pencil and you fill in the lines. So I gave both of those 5 stars, Paint by Sticker, reverse coloring book. I don't know what it is about that particular way of doing a little coloring type activity. It just really sparks my imagination. It makes me feel so creative. I also read some picture books, which I'm not going to take the time to talk about today, but you can always go over to my Goodreads to see very lengthy lists of lots of picture books that I read all the time. So please leave me a comment down below and let me know what was one of your favorite books that you read in April, or what is a book that just kind of, ooh, that was not for me. I don't know what that was, but it just rubbed me the wrong way and I did not like it. Leave me a comment down below. I always love to hear about what you guys are reading. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and remember, the right book in the right hands at the right time can change the world.